Welcome to the 3 Keys to Living in Radiance Encore live webinar. I'm Joy Caffrey, and I'm glad that you're here, whether in person right now, thank you, and or watching the recording later. And I want to encourage all of you that are watching the recording and or here right now to grab some pen and paper, and we'll do some doodling and capturing some of our reflections. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get us started. Okay. You're in the right place if you're here to watch 3 Keys to Living in Radiance. Here we have an opportunity to discover how to tune into our own energy field and to stay connected to our authentic self. In a way, we're going to look at a lens in terms of creating healthy, thriving relationships and how we step out of that sometimes and how we can step back into it. Okay. I'd like to start with some opening intentions. I like to do that with some tonal sounds. One is a way of introducing you to some of the ways that I access my healing work. And these sounds aren't from any particular religion, faith, or teacher. They're just what move through me as I've opened up to my healing gifts. And as I'm doing this too, I want you could tune into the sounds. And then also, let's go ahead and gently start a sweeping breath. So a sweeping breath is when we imagine that the inhale comes up through the soles of our feet and the exhale goes down from the crown chakra all the way back down to the soles of our feet. And the reason that I mentioned grabbing pen and paper is because I love for you to doodle while you're taking in the webinar, because it's a wonderful way of capturing and remembering takeaways. And I even encourage you to go ahead and trace your hand and see if you can capture some of your ahas in the little fingers of the hands. As you hear something that, oh, I really want to integrate that information, go ahead and capture it and add it to your doodle. Okay, so I'm going to take this moment to do my little ritual of putting myself in the best place of being in service for you. Hum Vayayandare. Hum Vayayandandare. Humarandareyo. I set egoic intentions aside and allow myself to open as a vehicle of love and of light. And in this moment, I place myself in service to you and to Spirit. I set the intentions for your highest good and well-being and open to the embodiment of love and compassion. And this is true for everyone on the webinar in this moment and everyone watching a recording of it. So the reason that I'm here doing this webinar is because I really want to offer the 3 Keys to Living in Radiance, which is content that I frequently share with my clients. And it's also because I'm going to be offering an in-person session. That I'm going to be offering a 7-week online course called Radiant Relationships. During the pandemic, I realized that I wasn't going to be doing in-person sessions and workshops at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I switched to creating an online course. I did offer this course last year, and I'm going to be offering it again this fall. And I want whoever's going to be in that course to get this preliminary information. And it's also great standalone information for those just wanting to capture some little nuggets tonight. And so that's the reason that I'm doing this. And I look forward to engaging with you throughout this webinar and for you to send any emails of your reflections or questions as we dive deeper into the work. To give you a little bit of background for those of you that are new to me, this is how I got to this place now is really a journey of my heart. And truly, that's me blowing out my birthday candles. And I really did wish for world peace. I wanted world peace, and I wanted to know that I could fly one day. And so I've learned how to fly in my dreams, and I'm still working on the world peace. And then in my 20s, I had a life purpose dream that I wanted to tell you about. And that life purpose dream, it came to me in my 20s. My printer is all of a sudden making noise and just starting out of nowhere. Okay. My life purpose dream in my 20s, it started with all of this natural disaster. And this was before climate change really was as much of in the media as it is now. So in my dream, there was so much tornadoes and destruction and chaos going on, and there were fewer and fewer survivors until I was just a handful of survivors. And I felt this incredible survivor's guilt. And so I screamed out in my dream, God, why am I here? And in that moment, I was just really lucid and knew that actually I was asking for my life purpose. And so as I heard that, I felt the presence of God next to me and writing on a little piece of paper and handing me that piece of paper. And I could read it, and it said, to show mankind how to love. And you'd think I might be thrilled, but actually I was a little disappointed. I was like, you mean not solve world peace or world hunger? And I had that little disheartening of expecting something more. And in that moment, the piece of paper was pulled out of my hand, and a new note came to me, which was to show mankind how to love. And that one really made me pause, and I stopped in my like, wow, I don't know if I know how to do that, because I'm not sure how to love myself. So this journey of my heart has been about opening to my authentic self and to self-love and my ability to increase my capacity to love and to allow myself to be loved. And so I want to offer that invitation to you as well. And these are some of the guiding values in my life, which so influenced again where I am today. So love, healing, and creativity were just at the core of my being. And I was so influenced. I grew up Catholic and was so influenced by the healing aspects of Christ and his ability to put his hands on people to heal them or to bring them back to life. I also was very influenced by art and by science together, and the emergence of those two. I was so fortunate that living outside of New York City, my mom brought me to museums a lot, both in New York City and in my own town. We had a phenomenal museum called the Heckscher Park Museum, where I would be able to see paintings by Picasso and Henri Matisse up close without the crowds. And I was so influenced by the beauty of that art. And I really love this quote by Albert Einstein. I love that Albert Einstein believed so much in imagination and in original thinking. And I love this quote that we cannot solve our problems from the level of thinking that created them. And that is such a core at the center of my healing work, because I truly feel as though one of my purposes is to help people create that transformational shift out of the problem level into a solution level. So curiosity, observation, reflection, originality, awareness, and the integration of all of those are some of the things that I love, and I love passing on to students and course participants and clients. I've had a couple of big turning points, as I'm sure we all have in our lives. And for me, one of those happened when I was 23 and a very close friend had died. And literally from his death, it popped me open to my gifts of clairvoyance and literally led me to a Kundalini awakening at his funeral. And when one experiences a Kundalini awakening, it is an intense rush of energy that opens up and clears your field in a really powerful way that allows after that for energy to move with more ease and more flow after that happens. And afterwards, that led me to another experience when my husband and I bought our first home. We did learn that the previous owner had died mysteriously, and I realized after a year that I could really hear that spirit in my home, and that he was yearning and needing my attention, and that prompted me to want to learn how to use these skills of clairvoyance and open to that. So I was motivated to study energy medicine after that experience and to learn how to help release that soul. And that kind of led me to the desire, as I studied energy medicine, to become an energy medicine practitioner and to lead workshops and to do motivational speaking. That was me in New Zealand when I was able to speak at the Dunedin conference for helping to end domestic violence. My background before stepping into energy medicine training is that I went to the Rhode Island School of Design and studied art and design. And throughout my years, I decided I wanted to be certified as a yoga teacher and taught yoga for many, many years. And also I've been an artist and an art teacher, and I love the combining of all of those things, which is what my courses now include, is the combination of how do we pull that together in a way that can inspire learning and growth and transformation and creating the shifts that we want in life. And that kind of all leads me to today's work, which is the 3 keys to living in radiance. We're going to look at tuning into our own energy field, pulling back the levels, the veils, to access those levels of consciousness that we all are within us. And today to specifically take a look at transforming the victim, perpetrator, and rescuer triangle. Try that again. This is what I have found the benefits to be of tuning into your own energy field and staying connected to your authentic self. It is really easy to go off of center and to know that it's okay to come back home again and again and again. As we do tune into our energy field, we can increase our confidence and vitality. We can help ourselves learn how to get back on center quicker and discover and honor and manifest those hidden gems that are alive within us. We can step more fully into our own brilliance. And I believe increase that desire to create and manifest what's ours to do and to connect to our meaning and purpose in the world. So let's first take a look at the human energy field. What does it mean as an energy healer? Actually, I want to backtrack too. I didn't describe what radiance is, and in one of last year, in one of my courses, what came out spontaneously when someone asked me, "What is radiance?" And to me, it's vibrating at the purest essence of your being, and that's what I want to help you do with strength and vitality. And first, it's understanding that we do vibrate because we actually have energy fields. This body of ours is the densest body. It's the densest part of our human energy field, and so it creates matter. But there's also more than just that. And so I wanted to even give a demonstration of what those layers of our energy field look like. I love this quote too, that we are not separate beings, we are individuated beings. And we come to knowing this through our own experience. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But first, let me demonstrate. My husband is willing to be a model, and I'm going to offer a demonstration of what his energy field, let's say, what the size of it is, just through a tactile demonstration of that. So I'm going to go ahead and stand up and switch my camera for a moment and actually take it off of screen share. Okay. This is to my husband. Let's see. Okay. Good. Okay. Is it okay if I touch you?
Of course.
Okay. So I'm going to tune into my energy field a moment and then experience and share with you the layers of Tim's field. So I like to do it at the heart chakra, just because I usually get a nice strong vibration from that. And my hands are going to go forward and backwards, which it's a little hard to see the back hand, but let me start with forward first. So first I'm just tuning in and feeling the layers. And as I pass through the layers, for me, so I'm passing through the layers of his field, it feels like a very thin membrane, kind of like the bubbles that you blow with a bubble stick. It's that thin and fine. And as I go out from each layer, at first it feels denser, closer to the body. Like right there is, I'm right bumping in between layers 1 and 2, and then there's that 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6. And then as I start to go, they start to stretch out a little bit, and they're a little bit more movable. And sometimes I might hear sounds or words, but all of this is my husband. And to the front of him, and let me feel the back here. That's that. I'm going to stand this way today too and try demonstrating to the back this way. That's all Tim. And that the same thing would go like to his head, above his crown chakra. You know, at the different body part, the different chakras, they might be moving different distances. Any perceptions for yourself today, Tim? You doing that?
No, but the neighbor's cat just walked by the front door.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So sometimes people have perceptions and sometimes not. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So when I get the camera down, when I've done that at the University of Arkansas in their health and science building, I've demonstrated on like I'll get 5 to 7 volunteers coming up in front of the classroom, and each one of them will experience it really differently. So and today I've done this 3 times now with Tim, and each time he said something a little bit different. But in the class, like sometimes people will actually even giggle because they're feeling that sensation of tickling or tingling, or they'll sometimes they notice like something will get stimulated, even if it's a flash of something, of a memory or a sensation, or they might feel, often what people say is they feel warmth or coolness as I'm making those hand gestures. So let's tune into a little bit to your energy field. Let me go back to the slides and then I'll come right back here a second. That quote, we're not separate beings, we're individuated beings, and we come to know this through our own experience. It's that experience of understanding that we have an individuated self and a place where we're all connected. And being that we are all energy actually connects us more than we realize, even looking down at that lower image as well. And one time I was at a lecture, and the lecturer had said, you know, when you're young, you think you're the center of the universe, and then you come to learn and you think he's going to say you're not, but instead he says, you learn we're all centers of the universe, which I really appreciate. Yeah. So let's go into the next slide and sensing our own energy field. Okay. So we're going to do some sensing of our own energy field in a with curiosity and with playfulness. What I'd like you to do is to bring, whoops, sorry, let me go back 1, 2. Okay, so I'm just gonna come off. Okay, I'm gonna have you just bring your 2 hands together, keeping your shoulders soft and your elbows soft, and just start to move your hands back and forth. And then you can even start to sense them as if there's a little ball there, or as if you're moving something like, sometimes it feels like I'm stretching a marshmallow, but maybe not so sticky. Or you can feel whatever it feels like for yourself. And you might start to feel tingling or warmth. And again, sometimes, this is a skill of high sensitivity. And sometimes it takes building to it, or sometimes it comes really naturally. So why don't you play with this for a minute, and then I'm going to have you put in the chat if you're experiencing anything or not. And then I might give you some other cues or tips for feeling something. And so you could imagine, like, what happens now that I get this sense? Can I start stretching it? Does it disappear? Does it feel denser when it comes back? So spend some time doing that. If you want to even turn away from the camera just so you're focusing for yourself, you can do that. You might even feel that sense of a magnetic quality or repelling. When I was in my energy medicine class, we really had to push and pull energy for hours, literally hours. And so we did do it with a lot of practice, and the sensitivity did build over time. And then see if you could start tuning into your own energy field and see what happens when you bring your hands back and forth to your body. I saw that Anna East signed up for this webinar, and so she may be watching the recording as well. That was one of my teachers. I want to just welcome everybody here. Some of you might have, Sue, my sister, just joined, and I don't know if she joined late. Well, we're checking into our energy field. I'm not sure when you joined. Okay, so let's take a moment to put in the chat if you've ever felt or sensed your energy field before, if this is your first time doing it. Do you have any type of sensation at all of tuning into your own energy field? So there's just a handful of you on the call today, but go ahead and just put in the chat. What are you feeling? What are you sensing as you tune into the field? And nothing is a very valid answer. So I'm going to pause this until I get at least 2 or 3 people in the chat. So don't be bashful and go ahead. Thank you, Sherry. Yeah. I feel energy and tingling. Yeah, tingling is a really common sensation. Yeah. Viscosity that's a great word. Yeah. A sense of viscosity. Thank you, Cecile. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to that slide that had a sneak peek already. Let's see, I gotta, oops, let me check in the chats first. Yeah. A sense of pressure and movement and tingling between the palms. I had felt that before. Between the fingers themselves. Yeah. So literally when I was in that energy medicine class, we would have to push and pull energy into someone else's hands, or we would have to stand close to a wall and imagine a ball of energy coming from our heart center and touching the wall, and then moving further and further back from the wall and seeing how far can we actually sense. And so we spent many, many hours building that high sense perception. And what it really helps you to understand who you are and who you're not. Who you are and who you're not, right? Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen here. Okay. So now I want to talk a little bit about you and all the different parts of you that are actually true. And we all have this sense of self and this propensity to grow into a completion of who we are. If this circle diagram is all of you, what's above the blue line is what you're aware of about yourself. It's your identity, your personality, your ego, your physical and emotional mental body. It's your preferences. It's how people describe you, how you describe yourself, what you know about yourself. And what's below that blue line is also you. And I love the Rumi quote, you're not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. And the way that I like to share that truth with you is with this that ocean and a drop, it's all these other levels of consciousness. So we have your conscious self, and then we're aware of when we dream at night that we're tapping into our subconscious. And we have our personal unconscious. So at times you might hear in healing work where people are tapping into their inner child, or that they've repressed some trauma, right? That goes down into that personal unconscious. And we also have a collective unconscious that we tap into. Like, and sometimes when we're feeling that, like the anxiety of what's going on, like I know myself and other people in this town we sense when midterms are coming at the University of Arkansas, because we can feel this collective unconscious of the tension of about to take tests in the middle of term or during finals. Or what's happening when the climate change is affecting us. We can feel that the group consciousness under some of this. And then there's archetypal consciousness. I want to give an example of how some of this comes into play with the work with my clients. And one is when I'm working with a client tenderly about grief, perhaps a child of theirs had died or a very close loved one, and they're actually afraid to go into their grief, which they know is there, but they're so afraid to express it, because once they do, they feel like they're not going to stop, and it's going to be this wellspring of energy that just keeps coming and coming, and that scares them because it feels overwhelming. And part of the reason is that it is overwhelming is because there is a wellspring. When we tap into the archetype consciousness of a mother grieving, there is a wellspring of grief. And so in doing our own healing work, we want to learn, how do I know who I am and what I'm not? Like, where do I want to honor my individuation, and where do I want to honor that connectedness to all that is? And so I want to take a few moments right now to see if we can just pull a little bit of that veil away. I know that for me, it's easy to kind of disintegrate that blue line. Like if I want to think about what my dreams were last night, I pull that blue line away, and the dreams can rise right up into that consciousness. And then there's times when, something's troubling me and irritating me, and I'm like, what is it? What's rising? And like just the other day, I was doing a piece of my own inner work and realized, wow, my adult was leaving my inner wounded child unattended, and she was really acting out. My wounded child has been acting out a bit, and so I can tap into that. So, I know what I can do about it. I can bring that adult awareness to tend to that inner child. This is some of the reasons why we want this awareness, so that we don't self-sabotage ourselves, or we don't, when we, a lot of times, either when we get triggered and we don't understand why the trigger is so big, or when we go into reaction, or when we sabotage, it's because aspects of that unconsciousness are pulling the strings, and we want to be able to understand when that's happening, so we don't have to sabotage ourselves or get defensive. So let's take a pause right now, and your higher self wisdom resides in this diagram. It's under that blue line. It's not necessarily above or below, but just for the diagram stuff. But we all have a beautiful inner wisdom that has information for us, that connects down into that divine consciousness, right? So in that totality of who we are, there's divine consciousness that moves through us and supports us and enfolds within us. So let's take a moment to just do some nice breathing for a moment, just tuning in and softening and slowing down. And so part of when we start to catch our different layers, like the layers of the inner critic, like telling us, I can't slow down right now, I've got too much on my mind, or whatever that inner critic wants to say. That's all part of that personal unconscious too. So let's slow down a moment, take some breaths, let yourself be in the here and the now, and see if you can catch a few layers. Imagine that awareness can rise up. I'm going to take some moments for some quiet sensing. And when we go into sensing, we soften ourselves, we soften the face, soften our hands, allow energy to move with ease in our body. The heart center opens. That tingling can start to happen all over. So let's do a little bit of this I am, playing with that I am. I'm going to say a couple of words from the with holding that vibration of I am, and see what rises into your awareness. So allow words to float up to the surface after you hear the word I am. And then we'll reflect on them a little bit. I'm going to do some toning to put myself in the best place of being in service. Shambhara Vayoyandare, Humarandare Vayoyandareyo, Humaranaye. And I'm going to repeat the word I am. You might want to have your pen and paper close by so you could just capture some sensations or words or thoughts that come after the word I am. I am. I am. I am. I am. Why don't you write down some of those words that came to you, and even write down a quality that came with it, right? If that I am is coming from our ego, it has a certain feeling to it. If it's coming from that higher self wisdom, it has a different feeling to it. I am. Can a word float to the surface that has a truth? Just the other day with a client that all of this energy work and these levels of the unconscious was so new to him. And he was just really awakened from the energy work we were doing. And when I said, I am what wants to float to the surface, his ego wanted to say, I don't know. But the truth of him said, like it just burst out of him, I am love. And he just felt the truth of those words and let it really touch him and touch his heart. Yeah. So I am, yeah, and if anyone wants to start to write in the chat, right, the universal truth, divine truth, universal truth. Yeah. Write down maybe in the chat box some of the truths that you can feel in this moment. And it's not, it's not about ego. It's just a universal truth that rises. And yeah, it just has that different feel to it. I'm saying that too, because in one of the other webinars, when I was doing that, someone felt like, oh, it's hard to write that truth because maybe it sounds egoic or something, right? And it's like, nope, it's just a universal truth. Yeah. A nice readiness and openness. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears now and look at the Kurtman's drama triangle. So sometimes in relationships, we might feel like we need to fix someone, or we might feel a little more powerless, or we might feel like we need to control what's going on or dominate. We might watch this happening with other people in our family systems, or like, oh my gosh, she's always trying to take care of him. And he constantly acts like a victim. And so it's, I wanted to bring up this triangle because it's something that unconsciously we act out without realizing it. And I want to offer us a different reframing of it. Let me give you for some like examples of what the rescuer might do. Like, so that rescuer, like as a parent, might keep financially helping out somebody, after I was just talking with another client about this, that like, oh, well, a scam happened to her and she needed that money, or this happened, or like it's like, but then there's still always that feeling of, when is it ever going to stop? When are they going to be able to take care of themselves? Or that feeling when one's a victim, one can often like blame everything else but themselves for the reason that they can't tend to something. Or when we're in that persecutor mode, we can have just short patience and really not tolerate other people's behaviors. And so I want to show an example of what's really going on there when we might be feeling or acting out in some of those ways. So the rescuer tends to over-identify with their idealized self. And the victim tends to over-identify with their wounded child. And the persecutor tends to over-identify with their protector, the warrior. And that in that rescuer role, people are so confused because they are identifying with their idealized self, which is what their churches and their schools and their parents always told them to be, to be the obedient wife, or the obedient daughter, or the obedient son, or to behave in a way that society tells us is what we're supposed to look like. But that might be the truth of our authentic self. And the victim over-identifies with their wounded child, their I can't attitude that happened from them not feeling empowered or having their needs met as a child. And so they felt less than capable. And that persecutor identifies with, oh my gosh, there's no one else that's going to do it. I've got to do this. And everybody else is an idiot. And this is what I need to do. And so they can bully or push on other people, in a way that can make the victim feel smaller, and that the rescuer needs to come in. And I've seen this too a lot in family dynamics, like with maybe if the husband and wife are fighting a lot, maybe a teenage daughter comes in and tries to rescue the mom, or a son comes in to try to rescue, or if the child is acting out, maybe one parent acts as the rescuer and one as the perpetrator. And so we want to help to really stop acting out any one of these, and often sometimes we'll rotate around which one we're acting in, and move instead to our authentic self. And in that transform, let's see, I might want to pause a moment. I like teaching information and then pausing. So before I actually go to the next slide, let's again have another quiet moment where you think about, let me look at some of my actions throughout this past week. And have I this week either, been trying to fix someone or do for someone else, or have I been acting a little bit helpless or incapable? I know that that can happen within me, and I had that triggered a couple times this week. Or am I acting like dominant and just really wish everybody did things better than they're doing, and I push for higher expectations and kind of do some bullying or yeah. Okay, let's take a moment to just reflect on your week. I'm gonna get quiet, and then I might throw out a couple of just gentle questions for you. So throughout this week, were there times when you might have felt exasperated and the sense of I can't, or woe is me, or that feeling of I'm never going to get there from here? Or have there been times when you were putting someone else down, or really trying to dominate a situation, or need to puff yourself up a little bit more in a way of protecting yourself? Did you really need to pull your ego in stronger because it didn't feel safe? Or was it at some time this week where you were doing for someone else because maybe you just really, that desire to help, that need to nurture someone else, to not want to see someone else suffer, to make it a little easier for someone else? And then let me show you what moving back into our authentic self with these energies can look like instead. So the rescuer is able to accept their own imperfect self. Sometimes what a rescuer is doing is they're not wanting to tend to their imperfect self, so they're trying to fix everyone else around them. They don't want to acknowledge that they have their own challenges to be taken care of, and so they put energy into taking care of someone else. So as we come into accepting our own imperfect self, we can ask ourselves empowering questions, or even ask the person we were trying to help empowering questions. And we can encourage others versus doing for others, and we can do more for ourselves. And in that victim energy, it becomes the capable creator. We actually learn to connect with our higher power and access both inner and outer resources with discernment. When we're in the victim stage, we don't have our resources, and we get disconnected from that adult self of ours that actually has discernment. And the persecutor can become the challenger, and they can recognize and stand up for their worth, but also for someone else's worth. They actually become the protector of all, right? Or on others' behalves. Instead of just feeding their own ego, they tend to be more in service. So I want to pause here a second too, and just look at maybe let's take just one of those roles that maybe you've recognized yourself in, and see if you can tune into what your authentic self has available for you. So if you're someone that over identifies with your idealized self, then you tend to be a perfectionist, right? And you're doing for others. And so let's see if in this moment you can soften and accept some of your own imperfections, or learn that, like, oh, good is good enough. Good is just good enough. And in that victim, recognize that shift into the capable creator of, oh, actually, I have resources. Oh, victim often feels like we've abandoned ourselves. Our adult has abandoned ourselves. I had an incident of that this week. where I was having such a strong body reaction. It was a very childlike reaction to something. And I was like, whoa, what is that about? I actually literally was not wanting to use a blanket that someone had given me because I've been holding some resentment towards that person. And my inner child showed me, like, you better get clear with that and understand what that is, because the body reaction was so intense. So I was able to, oh, wow, like my inner child is telling me what strength of my feeling is and how I need to bring my adult in to access my own power and my own resources, my adult within myself, not a rescuer from outside of myself. And or if you feel like you've been kind of bullying people or snapping at people or being short-tempered, how can you stand up for what your own worth and recognize the worth in others? So let's take again a pause here and doing some of that breathing into the levels of consciousness, and take a moment to have that intention of stepping fully into your authentic self. Hummayandare, hummayandandare, humarandare. Part of that journey of mine of showing mankind how to love, it relates to self-acceptance, honoring the authentic self as messy and imperfect, and also very capable. And it's this beautiful integration of all of that. And when we disown one of those aspects of ourselves and throw them out to the corners, we step out of our authentic self. How can we own the wholeness of who we are with love? And that kind of takes me to our next piece here, which relates to reframing your self-worth through the lens of love. Because sometimes when we're doing this kind of work where we're looking at some of our own self-limiting beliefs and feeling our unworthiness or less than, it can trigger some of our inner critic, and that being impatient with ourselves or frustrated with our lack of clarity or strength or worthiness. So let's take a moment to look at this. I'm going to say this out loud, and then we'll pause for a little bit of a meditation with it. While it may be true that at times I feel, let's say for me, I'm going to throw this in, fill this out. Well, it may be true at times that I feel scattered. Oh, while it may be true that at times I feel unworthy or less than, or I feel incapable. It's also true that I am, maybe I could say, sincere or grounded. And I can show up even when it's challenging. I can accept doing the best that I can in that moment. I contribute meaningfully to my relationships by. So let's take a moment, and I'm going to hold that space of self-worth and self-love vibrationally. So we shift into that vibration. And I want you to, be able to fill this out. So I'm going to pause a moment for just tuning in, right? I'm going to stop. I guess I'll go to the next piece here, which is, whoops. Yeah, just a moment of another guided meditation with creative reflection. So have your pen and paper ready. Well, let's pause and look at, so what are some of my self-limiting beliefs that come up? So while it may be true that I feel, and then you could put in one of those self-limiting beliefs. Or just write them down for now, and we'll fill out that little chart in a moment, those sentences. What are some of your self-limiting beliefs? What is the voice of your inner critic telling you sometimes? And then let's pause and open to compassion and self-love. And we recognize that we catch ourselves in a challenging place or triggered place, often like, and maybe our inner child is acting out. It's because she or he feels so much that there's something precious to protect. There's an expression that what was absolutely essential to you as a child becomes detrimental to you as an adult. What was essential to you as a child, it was an ego strategy, and that ego strategy might not be needed anymore, but we still keep using it because it's what we know. And so what I want to have is compassion for that egoic strategy. And then know that you are more than that strategy. You are more than that woundedness, that you have many ways to cope and to open up to new skill sets and to use tools in your toolbox. So tapping into that universal truth of that I am energy. So after looking at some of the self-limiting beliefs, let's hold that energy of the truth of I am. And again, let one of those universal truths rise to the surface. I am. And then let's go back to our little chart and give yourself a moment to fill it out. While it may be true that at times I feel, it's also true that I am and I contribute meaningfully to my relationships by So let's take another moment. If you have any little ahas or insights. Yeah, I already am seeing some written down. Yeah, thank you. Okay. I want to share just a couple of stories. Lisa Jo gave me her permission here. She's a beautiful folk artist, and she was struggling with her self-worth. And the way that it was showing up was that she was staying at a job that she wasn't being respected at, and she wasn't being paid enough for the work that she was doing, and she was verbally not being treated well. And she thought that, she couldn't do any better, or that's like her idealized self told her, like, no, you stick things out, you endure it, you just, whatever, put your chin up. And then after doing just some deep work about opening up to the truth of her self-worth, she ended up quitting that job, getting a job so quickly afterwards, and then yet even a second job after that, that really was so much more in alignment with her creativity, with her capability, with her joy in teaching. And she really, just in that owning her self-worth, made really quick shifts in her life that brought her a lot more happiness. And Nick was also someone who just was new at exploring some of like what's in that unconscious and exploring what's there. And he just had a particular upbringing that just didn't give him any awareness of all of these things. And wow, just watching him in the last year or two, just stepping more and more into his whole self. And he's moving from being a real estate person and real estate coach into doing public speaking, because he has so much to offer. And it's been just amazing watching him take leaps and bounds in his growth in a letting go process, and learning that letting go is not a surrendering, but letting go of ego and moving into the strength of being in the flow. And that what I want to spend a little bit, just 10 minutes here talking to you about is, if any of this work interested you and you want to dive even deeper, I would love to talk to you about radiant relationships, creating wholehearted connection, clarity, and confidence in all your relationships. Again, it starts with yourself and then extending out. And then also it relates to 5 movements of energy that all of us use, and they show up in our relationships. And so I wanted to mention that to you here. I'm going to pause a second. So all of us do this with energy. We all diffuse energy, we pull energy, we push energy, we compress energy, and we stop it. And we do it all day long. And we're doing it with our word choices, with our body language. And we do so in ways that add to our own suffering or add to our own joy and vitality. And this ends up showing up within ourselves and in our relationships. And so I created a workshop, a 7-week online course. I've created lots of workshops around it, and now it's turned into a 7-week online course of just how do we understand human energy dynamics in a way as it relates to relationships. So what I'm excited to share with you is the content of this workshop. And if you ever just want to come and do individual sessions or sessions online with me, feel free to do that. This is, Vicky is my assistant, and she is so graciously posting the information. The course starts on October 27th and runs for 7 weeks. But in the first week, I'll give you an overview of those 5 movements of energy. In week 2, we specifically talk about the diffuse energy. In week 3, the pull energy. And how what we look at is what's the suffering pattern of that energy and what's the radiance and the vitality of that energy pattern. We all use these energy patterns, although we default to 1 or 2 of these more than others. And as we default, that defense or suffering shows up in our relationships. And so and then we also can recognize someone else's suffering and defenses in their relationships, and how not to get triggered or how not to go into reaction. In week 4, we talk about the push energy, learning how to lead through inspiration, learning power with versus power over, learning what we can trust, dismantling imposter syndrome. In week 6, we talk about the stop energy, how to get out of that perfectionism cycle, learning how to choose pleasure over perfection, and really stepping into that authenticity I was mentioning. And then in week 7, we do integration about it. How do we integrate? Hold the keys to full presence. So in this 7 weeks, we ended up coming pretty close as a community together as we grow and share and learn and reflect with each other. I love doing in-person workshops, but through the pandemic, I've learned the importance of online workshops. And so this is an online workshop. So if you sign up for this, your course will include the 7-week trainings. Each week we'll get guided meditations, breath exercises, or hand mudras. I love doing hand mudras as a way of moderating our nervous system. There'll be in each week, there'll be the PDFs of the files. I'll give you essential oil suggestions, the PowerPoints of the slides, inspirational quotes, and contemplative practices. And then we'll also do some playful interaction practices with family and friends, and some journal prompts. And you'll have access to all of this on live online training recordings. If you miss one of the calls, catch the recording. And we'll be interacting with each other throughout those weeks. If this course is something you're interested in, I would love to have you join me going deeper into this work, because it means so much to me. And so, and means so much to me in sharing with you how to integrate this information and deepen your capacity to allow yourself to be loved and to love in relationship. So if you decide like, wow, yep, I know this course is for me and I want to do it, then sign up today and you'll get a 45-minute mentoring call with me that you could use throughout the 7 weeks when you feel like you really want to dive deeper into something that came up during one of the weeks. You'll also receive the 4-deck collection of the Joyful Healing Clarity Card collection. I'm really excited about that. I just did this Kickstarter. They're being printed and they're getting delivered this week, and I'm excited. And so these clarity cards, they relate to knowing and understanding our feelings, how that points to our needs. We have a body awareness deck, so we know what's going on in our body, and then 54 cards on great doable soul care action strategies that you can take. And if you need a few days to think about it, but you still want to register by October 27th, you can still get the Soul Care Strategy deck and a guide on choosing an energy healer. I have had people come to me telling me some stresses they've had working with other healers, and I don't want that to happen again. And so I had come up with over the years a guide of 20 questions to ask oneself before using a healer. And it's also good for working with a therapist or something else, a nice guide. All of the registrants receive these bonuses. I have the journey of what happened during that Danny experience and what happened at that funeral and how I opened up to my healing gifts. I had given that talk way back in 2000 at Ozark Research Institute, and I have a CD of the actual original video. It's really capturing the closest of how I opened up to my gifts, as it was so fresh back then. And then Stephen Kessler has a wonderful book called The 5 Personality Patterns that I use in this course. I'm writing a book myself on this material, but his book is such a great prelude to the book that I'm writing. And I have an interview with him that everyone can get when they join the class. And the Turning Point of Awareness is a guided meditation for you to help distinguish between thoughts and awareness. You can register now with a single payment of $297 or 3 payments. And again, register now, you get the instant bonus, or if you want to take a couple of days to think about it, you can get the early registration bonus. And I'm definitely here to answer any questions that you may have. There are several different links, and maybe Vicky's put some of these links in the already. She has put these links in. So if you want to do a one-time payment or 3 monthly payments, we'll also be sending you an email in case you're interested and didn't get to capture any of these links, but here they are for you. I'm delighted that all of you have joined me for this hour, that I get to share with you some of my joys of combining energy healing work with consciousness. And I love taking us through meditations. You know, we have a few more minutes here. And so let's do one last breath exercise for a moment. And then right after that breath exercise, if you want to write down some of your takeaways, actually in the last webinars I did last week, people were texting me the hand doodles, the doodles that they did with the hands. I was delighted to see them. So let's do this breath exercise. And then from the breath exercise, go ahead and write some of any takeaway, any aha moment that you might have had from being together over this last hour. So in this breath exercise, we're going to imagine that our inhale expands from the heart center, going in all directions. And the exhale comes back to us as if universal love or divine love is nurturing us and giving us a hug on that exhale. The inhale expands us out. And the exhale comes back with warmth and love. So let's take at least like 5 of those breaths where we inhale and stretch out. Exhale, let love come back right towards you. Your whole being, that whole energetic field gets hugged on the exhale. And inhale out. Softening, expanding on the inhale. And exhale, having a nice warm hug come back to you. Okay. So go ahead and put into, you take 1 or 2 more of those breaths if you like, and then put into the chat. Just a nugget or some type of takeaway that you're getting from that hour together, or if you're looking forward to anything, if there's some new insight you want to tend to or reflect on. And I'm always so available for you and to you. If you have any reflections, I'm going to go ahead and even put my phone number here if anybody wants to text me afterwards, because a few people did last time. And I want you to feel free to do that. That's Joy's phone number. I am still offering energy healing sessions, and I've been doing them both virtually and in person. So I am still doing in-person energy healing sessions out of my home. I know I worked with Jerry before I've been in 2 different offices downtown Fayetteville, and now this is my home and this is my reception area. And so, yes. And if on my website at joyfulhealingcenter.com, there's a section on healing, and then a place that you can schedule sessions. Yeah, that allowing yourself to be loved, that was a pretty big deal for me too, to recognize that I could allow myself to be loved. And just holding that insight has let me see places where I've actually barricaded myself from letting love come in, even from people that were real important to me. And yeah, I'm glad that I'm shifting and opening to that. Oh, okay, thank you. One of my end slides is my contact info. Okay, I'll keep going on the slides then. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that breath, I like that breath exercise too. Yeah, that coming back with a hug on the exhale. I love doing breath work, and in the 7-day course, we'll be tuning into different breath work each time. So some of the things that I hope that you also remember to take away is that you can tune into your energy field, and you can stay connected to your authentic self. It could become a conscious choice as you recognize when you've stepped away from your authentic self. You can make that choice. And that's what I like about that turning point of awareness, is like there's 1,000 opportunities to return back to home, to return to center. And as we love ourselves more and come into full acceptance of ourselves, it's easier for us to create healthy, thriving relationships, to have compassion for ourselves and compassion for others. And here is that, again, my contact information. Vicki helps me with all of my emails and everything, and we will be sending you an email with the PDF of this webinar. But there you have the website, ways to get in touch with me. Yeah. And so I'm wondering if anybody has any other information that they want to share. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I love I love offering the work that I do, and I care to make it the work that I do a loving and compassionate and safe and radiant environment. Yeah. Thank you all. Okay, well, I'm gonna sign off in a minute, but I'm gonna make sure I catch everybody's messages. Thank you. You're so welcome. Feel free to sign off. And I would love and hope that all of you join me in the Radiant Relationship Workshop, and or certainly with an energy healing session, whether it's on video or in person. Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna stop sharing and then I'm gonna sign off. Yeah. I just feel so much love. So I'm gonna just take in the love for a moment. Okay. Yeah. All right. I hope that you all have a nice evening. And please pass this information on to others. So I will be doing some Facebook posts and or emails, and please feel free to share. Okay. All right. Have a great evening.